Thank you. It's a very, very beautiful piano. It feels the right somehow atmosphere.
Oh,
You know, it's very
thank
very
you.
contained,
Mm.
almost like a salon-like atmosphere. I find very interesting that he, you know, usually he was dedicating his music to some rich madame
Mm-hmm.
or a countess or like some aristocrat,
Mm-hmm.
but he dedicates this piece to Robert Schumann,
Mm-hmm.
which I find very interesting because somehow the extreme character of this, the extreme nature of this music, you know, it reminds me a little bit to the history of Florestan and Eusebius.
Oh, I see.
So maybe in a way it's a homage to this
Oh, I see.
double nature. So maybe Chopin was thinking, okay, let's see what is my double nature. So what can I do with this idea of extremes?
Mm.
And then we have really two completely. It's one of the most extreme pieces that Chopin
Yes.
ever wrote. No,
Yes.
really, it's literally like almost a paysage, really very far, with almost nothing happening in the beginning, and then like this diametrally opposite, most dramatic, tragic following section. It's also interesting how he uses keys. So he starts with a C. We could be in C major, theoretically. We could be in A flat, but we're in F. And the beginning sounds almost like, I would say almost like an easier version of a Bach chorale. You know, these four voices, almost static canvas, where nothing changes. And it's one of those pieces, one of the rare pieces actually, where Chopin writes such long lines, you know, and nothing really, he doesn't really want many changes. There are only two moments where he writes a dynamic, I think he writes pianissimo in a moment, but at the beginning he writes this mezza voce, which is this difficult to define element that he was looking for in the piano. He always asked pianists to sing on the piano, and he especially liked this quality of certain singers of his time to be able to pronounce a mezza voce, which literally means half of the voice. So I think he was very much looking into this quality of the piano, especially of his piano. And interestingly enough, then how this F major goes into A minor. How it goes really into this parallel, almost parallel universe, you know. It's just a third apart. You can still feel, you know, with your ear, if you just listen, you feel a very clear relationship between F and A minor. They are very close. But at the same time, there is this shift. So I think also the use of keys is very symbolic in this sense.
Yeah, your comment, about why he dedicated this piece to Schumann is very interesting. I never thought about it. It's a contrast between the quiet part and the dynamic. Yes, that makes sense actually.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Also because, you know, usually Chopin has a very, like, it's not such a extreme way of writing. Usually it's a very narrative, has a very narrative quality, in the sense that the music always has a certain development, also harmonically, and from the point of view of dynamic is always usually I would say a rather more varied panorama. In this piece is really like black and white, and it's quite rare for him. Also the coda is such incredible, really dramatic level, almost as never in his music. And what I like especially, you know, first of all, there is this interesting detail, I would say, where he actually puts the slur not on the whole, is not on all the notes, but it's after the first. So it's. And I think what he wanted here is really to make you feel this. You know, he writes agitato in the end, but agitato doesn't necessarily mean just faster. It means more unquiet. So you should find a way to be very unquiet, and suddenly, and sometimes, you know, when you are agitated, it's not that you're doing actually things fast. I think you are doing them more chaotically. So in a way you are even slower in the process because you're so agitated. But just there is a lot of movement without a clear direction.
Yeah, that reminds me of you said the Florestan and Eusebius. So
yes.
Schumann, oftentimes, he's piano music. He lost his way and he repeats many times the same kind of motif. That's common. So it reminds me of the Schumann style in a sense.
In a sense, yes. Although here I feel an even more serious level of drama than in most of Schumann music, where I feel that. I mean, now it's more of a generalization, but here I really feel like very, very tragic happening. You know. And also, I especially love very much how this bass line develops, starting in this like normal. We call this Phrygian tetrachord. Like it's 4 notes that go down and reach the dominants. It's rather normal. And again they say just an octave higher, which also actually, by the way, proves again his love for symmetry, right? So what he does here is exactly the same, just an octave higher. And this gives, you know, the music is so rich that maybe the first time you hear it, you don't even realize it's the same. Because the change of register actually makes a big difference. But at the same time, there is really this symmetrical development, because it's exactly the same one more time, and it gives some sense of balance between. But what happens next, I find then the crucial moment, which is so this bass that we had going down, now it goes down chromatically. I find this really being like sort of the peak of drama. All of these dissonances. To reach almost the extreme of the possibilities of the piano.
Oh, I see.
You know, so really he goes in all registers. In a way, it's almost like a little bit Lisztian in this sense, in this sense of developing possibilities of the piano and very orchestral sounding.
Yes,
very orchestral sounding.
So you mentioned to me before that you have a particular fondness for the final portion, I mean the dramatic part of this piece, which is very interesting to me because I think most pianists enjoy playing the slow part, the beginning or the, because not only is it easier to play technically, but you can enjoy the sound and the Chopin's sentiment. But the last part is so technically difficult that most pianists just so busy is playing the correct notes that they don't. They can't really enjoy the music itself.
Yes,
but you apparently seems to be enjoying, and you grasp the phrasing and the subtle phrasing and that's harmonic and modulation.
Of course, I mean I would say I also enjoy very much the opening part. Don't misunderstand.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think that especially in such complicated passages like the coda, I think it's actually very helpful to help yourself with being more, let's say, determined in what is important, what to do exactly, because it will help you also technically. So you can solve, paradoxically, you can solve technical problems with musical intentions. You know, where you find exactly what certain things mean to you, where is the most important moment, where you take time, where dynamically how you build everything, it can be of extreme help technically.
Yeah, but still, can I say that this part is technically very awkward? I mean, compared to many other Chopin's pieces, like the Etude, for example, most Etude are very difficult, but still, you know, it fits your hand very well. I mean, because he's a pianist himself.
Yes.
But this ballad number 2, especially the last 2 pages, you know,
Yes.
it doesn't fit your, you know, it's the same, you know, notes repeated many times. And
I think that's why it's even more important, really, not to think about, not to even, like, let's say, enter in your brain this information that it's technically difficult. You should not. I think he didn't want to write something technically difficult. It was not his intention. He wanted to write something agitated and very dramatic. So I think that's the main source of information. Then obviously, of course, it becomes what it becomes, but it becomes what it becomes for musical intentions. So basically, what happens here is not just difficult because it repeats the notes. So this would be the chord actually. So what he does is, you know, he's almost deforming the chord. He's going up, down, and then finally on the note. So basically, when you play, I think you shouldn't even think about all the notes. You should understand that this is all contour. That you are drawing something that actually goes goes around it. This is the longest one. Like almost a question mark, you know. And all of these dissonances again. Very agitated. So I think he really didn't want to write something just technically difficult. It was not his main goal.
So
it just happened.
So you think that like same note, you know, very quickly, many times, that's a necessity. So I mean, you have to do it, right? Because maybe don't you sometimes think that if I skip those same notes, it would be much easier. And
so you would be. Yes, but you see, the music really loses its character very much. So it's not that he wanted to write repeated notes. It's actually a very good observation. The repeated notes create this feeling of agitation. It's like when your heart is beating very fast. You cannot be the same level of agitation if your heart is beating very slow, right? So I think this. Really creates this unknown energy, you know. So you should be enjoying and trying to be as much as possible present in all of this process, and especially. So what happens here is even more interesting because one note is almost like destiny always, you know, like knocking on your door, but. So what happens actually now that we analyze it a little bit, it's even more interesting because we have the chromatic line in the left hand, but at the same time we have also chromatic in the right hand. So there are two, and always chromaticism is a sign of great difficulty, great suffering, no? Already from the beginning of music history. So we have two lines that chromatically pass. And even three, because this is also going down. So we have a general chromatic descending, which makes the music extremely difficult to go on. I go against this,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't happen.
So you're in the midst of a big storm.
Yes.
Yes. So its contrast is so vast. Yes, that's true.
It's extremely vast, and it's not like a straightforward. You know, it's not like straightforward dramatically. Like a, I don't know, a normal passage. It's a very dense, musically speaking, moment.
Very good. Very interesting.